I really get a kick out of this section. I signed up for a technical drawing class, which is kind of like the early version of CAD class in high school, my senior year, and found I really enjoyed this kind of stuff. Basically, we're looking at how do you take a three-dimensional object and draw it on a two-dimensional piece of paper. And it's how they used to do all their drawings for, like, if you want somebody to build a part for your car, you'd have to give them like 3 different drawings of it from different views, and they can construct it into a 3D model. Now with computers, you just get the 3D model. But okay, anyways, base plan. So base plan shows what the, so base shape, and lists the height of each part. So the base plan, this first thing, is going to say, well, what does the base shape look like? So if I were to take this object here and put it on a piece of paper and like trace around it on a piece of paper, that's essentially what we're doing for the base shape. I'm going to take and do it this way though. If this is the front, often they take and draw these things kind of like on an angle. So if you're just looking at it from the front, you wouldn't be able to see what the side looks like at all. So they do it kind of looking down a little bit from like the top, but also seeing a little bit of the right side of the object. So I'm going to treat that like my front edge. So this edge here, I'm going to take and draw just that way so it's the front of my object. Is that fair? And you want to try to aim to have it be drawn to scale about as much as you can. But if I do that, now I'm going to have this edge that I can't see over here on the side, kind of that back edge of this green block. So that's going to now go straight back, so that's a 90-degree angle. I would draw this. Yep, I draw this thing on the right. I don't know if I do that big arrow I put on there, but I'd try to draw something like this here. So can I convince you that that's going to be the bottom of these first 3 blocks, these blocks right here? This is kind of like the bottom edge of those. Or maybe what I should say is that's going to be, kind of these blocks right here. Good? And now I have some that are going straight back as well. So I have the bottom of this orange block. That's on the bottom, so that's going to be there. Try to make the block about the same size as the one in front of it. Then that red block in the back corner, that's kind of the bottom of that red block. So I'm hoping I can kind of try to convince you that that's what it's going to look like if we're looking straight down on this thing. Good? And now we have to go through and say, well, what's the height of each? So when I look at this one right here, that's if I was looking straight down from above, I'd be looking at this top yellow piece. So I'm how tall right there? 3. So I put a 3 right there. This next one, I'd be looking down at that top edge, and it is 2 blocks tall. The one in the corner would be 1. And the one that has the black on top is 2. And then last but not least, the blue, 3. So we're looking down at each one. So 3 tall, so I put my 3. 2 tall, put my 2. 1, so on. We okay for base plans? Base plans work well if you have like a boxy sort of shaped object like this. For a lot of like real life things, that doesn't work. So what they always used to do is do a top, a front, and a right view. Back before we had computers that would just do it in 3D for you. But this thing here, saying, and for some people they struggle with this a little bit, so I'd encourage you to, if you need to, kind of color what you're going to see. And sometimes it helps, I don't totally know why, but if I kind of like get myself up above my paper, so kind of lean forward, you're kind of looking at that top edge. But do you agree, for a top view, if I'm looking down on this, do you agree I would see the top part of this yellow cube? But would I see either of these 2 sides? No. Those are kind of hidden if you're directly above it. I'd also see the top of this pink. I see the top of the green, top of the black, top of the blue. Yes? So we want to draw now just the tops of all those, and it's actually going to look the same as our base plan, right? It's going to look the same as that right there. So we have our front edge. Since I colored mine in brown, I'll probably do the outline in brown. Because the base plan really just is going to end up being that top view. So I'm trying to keep my boxes all nice square shapes, all the same size as each other. So I wouldn't write this in, but just if it helps you picture it, this is the yellow, this is the pink, this is the green. And normally people don't write the colors in, so I wouldn't do that unless you think that'll help you see what's going on. Oh, you don't have the colors, do you? Sorry about that. So I wouldn't write the colors in at all. That won't be any good to you. But then the blue. But does that at least help seeing it there for people to picture it? Yeah. So I should go back up and fill in the blanks. So for this, we're going to draw 3 pictures. We just did the top view. We have to do the front and the right still. So each one showing what you see from that direction. So each one showing what you see from that direction. All right, so now if I try to do my front view, now the front you have to kind of picture that you're looking at it from this direction here. So it's not straight on. You're not going to see that right side at all. So when we have our front view, do you agree I'll see that part of the yellow block? And this on the white, this on the green, this on the pink, this on the red, this on the green. Is that all I see?
Black.
Yep, I'll also see this edge on the black and
Blue.
this one on the blue. So it kind of looks like what letter?
H.
Oh, kind of an A. I was thinking like a U sort of thing, with this extra bit there in the middle. But so if I try to draw those, so I'm going to try to make my blocks about the same size as the one above. So I want to go 3 blocks tall. I suppose you could kind of view it like a W.
Looks more like a
A U with an extra thick bottom. That's kind of what my brain did. But that's going to be the yellow, the white, and the light green. And again, I wouldn't put the colors in. That won't make sense to you, and you won't have colors on your test. This here is this here is the pink. And then below the pink we have the red. Next to the red we have the green. Then we have the black. And then we have the blue. You okay for front view? Yep. And now for the very last bit, we need to try to look at it from the right side. So it's kind of like we're looking just at this edge. Exactly. So Aaron's brain already jumped to see what it is. And it won't always be this way, but in this case it's going to be the exact same shape. So I see those 3 blue parts. I see this part of the black, this part of the orange, and then these 3 here on the other. So it actually ends up being the exact same for front and right view. So you can draw them in as all individual cubes. I kind of did a weird order. But yellow, pink, dark green, black, orange, red, brown, and blue. And again, I wouldn't write in the colors. But does that actually make sense to people? The very last thing in this section is a net. And a net shows the outside of a 3-dimensional object as if it were cut apart and unfolded. And laid flat, maybe we could say. Now it's possible that when you draw a net for an object, and I draw a net for an object, they would look a little different. That's because you could cut it up in different ways. But essentially be saying if I took this cardboard box, this Rice Krispies box, and cut along the seams, so say I do like a cut here, and a cut here, and a cut there, and so on, and start laying these sides down, what's it going to look like? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and say I'm going to build it on the bottom. So I'm just going to draw out a rectangle for the bottom of the box. So something like that for the bottom. A little bit messed up. But then I'm going to say, all right, so if I have that back edge of the box and fold the back edge down, it's going to be the same width as the bottom, but it's going to be quite a bit taller. So that's supposed to be my back edge. Then I could do the same thing with the front edge, so I'll slide this up a little bit. and that front edge. And you want to try to make it as to scale as possible. So this side here, the height of the back and the height of the front should be the same. So you want to kind of try to aim to make it look right. Here's my front edge then. And now we have the two sides. So I have this part right here I'm coloring in red. So if we didn't cut along the bottom, if we left that together, it would come out the side this way. If instead we left it attached to one of these, so say I didn't cut this front edge, I could have the side be built, kind of out the front like that. But I'm going to say I'm cutting the sides and I'm going to lay this thing out this way. So as I do that, hopefully the height of the side is the same as the height of the box. And that'd be one side. Now my other side should be symmetrical going in the other direction. So once I do that, now I have all the parts of the box except the very top cover. So I'm going to get rid of my X's there. And we need to have that top cover. So you could put it on really any number of places. I'm going to pretend that I cut it right here along that front edge, right up there on the top. So it's released from the front but still attached on the back, which then that top edge for me sits right there on that back edge. And as you go and do these for the test, I wouldn't stress too much about if you cut yours up the same way as mine. If yours looks different than my answer key, I'll just look, could you take and fold that thing back together and get the original object? But essentially the reason they call it a net is if you would lay a net over the whole object and then lay that net out flat, what's it going to look like? That's it for this section.